Imagine you wake up one morning, stretch, and open your curtains like you do every day, but this time everything is different. Above you, stretching across the entire sky from one horizon to the other, is something unbelievable, a glowing, radiant band of light, shimmering, arcing, majestic, almost too beautiful to be real. What is it? It's not dawn. It's not a cloud. It's a set of planetary rings, earthly rings, that you're right. In this version of the universe, our home planet has rings, just like Saturn, and it should not. Just pretty. It changes every. The skies would look unlike anything we know. The climate would shift. Life might evolve differently, and our entire view of space, time, and even culture would never be the same. So now the question is, what if Earth actually had rings? Like Sat? Well, it would be beauteous, and it would be utter chaos. Here's the first thing you'd notice. The view. If you lived near the equator, the rings would stretch directly across the sky in a massive arc. They would rise or set. They would just sit there, painted above your head, day and night, bright during the day, glowing at night, always hovering, always visit. They would look like Saturn rings exactly. Earth is smaller, with less mass, so its rings would be narrower, thinner, maybe more fractured, but still majestic. You could see gaps between the bands, shadows cast on the atmosphere, light scattered in patterns never before met. If you lived a bit north or south, the perspective would shift. The rings would appear tilted, thinner, more sideways, and if you lived near the poles, you would see much at all, maybe just a hazy brightening in the sky like a distant halo. But for billions of people living along the tropics and beyond, Earth would become a constantly glowing art insto. The night sky would never be truly dark again, and that is not just poetic. That's a prob, because all that radiant light, it reflects sunlight. City lights are nothing compared to this imagined constant twilight. For animals, plants, and ecosystems that rely on darkness, it would be a disaster. Predators could endlessly hunt. Nocturnal creatures would be confused. Sea turtles might lose their way on bees. Even humans would face the effects, from disrupted sleep cycles to a loss of the star-filled sky we've looked to for thousands of years. Astronomy would have evolved differently. None of the deep space images captured by telescopes today would have been possible with those rings polluting the view. No quiet stargazing, no stunning meteor showers, no Milky Way stretching above remote deserts. Only the rings. Always the rings, and that's just what's happening in the sky. Rings don't just float there for fun. They're made of debris, ice tiny, rocks to giant snowballs, all orbiting at incredible speeds inside the planet. Dendrochland, that geodesome where celestial bodies get ripped apart by gravity. And the reason rings exist in the first place. Now, if Earth had rings, it likely means we once had a moon, maybe even a massive one that got a little too close and was torn apart. What was once a moon is now a shattered record, spiraling around the planet forever. And if it didn't that close, some of those particles could start raining down. Not every piece would stay in orbit perfectly over time. Some ring material could drift inward, burning up in the atmosphere, falling as meteor showers. That might sound beautiful, and it would be, but too much debris falling too often could wreak havoc. Now imagine trying to launch satellites through that. Right now, Earth has thousands of satellites orbiting above, handling everything from mobile internet to weather forecasts, good with a giant ring system blocking orbital paths. Good luck, every launch becomes a cosmic game of dodgeball. Low Earth orbit, too risky. Space stations, constantly threatened by incoming debris. Communication systems, expensive and unstable. Even global positioning systems, the very thing that tells your phone how to get to the coffee shop down the street, would be unreliable. A single collision in orbit can cause a chain reaction of fragments, and rings mean a permanent field of moving obstacles, so we might give up on satellites altogether. Maybe we'd invent different technology, something ground-based, to replace what we couldn't do in space, or maybe only a few countries, those near the poles where ring impact is minimal, could safely launch upward. Earth would no longer be a united spacefaring species, we'd be divided by the rings above us. And speaking of division, the rings would dramatically affect something else. Our climate. Remember, the rings reflect sun, that means sunlight. Doesn't all hit the same way anymore. If you're under the shadow of the rings for part of the year, your region gets less heat. Less heat means colder temperatures. Crops grow slower. Rain patterns change. Local seasons could shift entire in some equatorial zones. You might have lands plunged into permanent dusk, others flooded with sunlight from ring reflections. Even at night, the result, atmospheric chaos, shifting wind patterns, weird jet streams, unpredictable storms, drought in one half of the continent, floods in the other. Earth-ray perfect weather bore. And all of that is assuming the rings have always been there. But what if? What if they had? What if, in our own real timeline, Earth used to have real timeline? Earth used to have rings. It's not imposta. Some scientists believe that millions or even billions of years ago, Earth might have had rings. Over time, perhaps through friction or drift, those rings collapsed, coalesced, or rained slowly back down. And if that the case, we living in the calm after the glittering storm. But what if rings suddenly appeared now? Say we destroyed our own moon through an artificial accident or celestial crash. We would watch in horror as the moon shattered above us and the pieces spread into orbit, slowly forming a ring. It would look beauty and terrifying because behind the shine is a new set of rules. Optical, political, environment, and none of them favor life as we know it today. But here and the thing, even if it's dangerous, even if it causes chaos, humanity would find a way to turn it into mean. We would build cultures around it, religions, myths, art. New constellations would be drawn, not in stars but in ring shazas. Photographers would spend lifetimes capturing how the rings shift through a cloud bank. Lovers would name each band like riverbeds in the sky. Scientists would mine the rings for secrets of the solar system. Men pass. And eventually, maybe we'd forget what it was ever like not to have them. Life would go on, but under a new sky. So, what if Earth had rings like Saturn? It would be dazzling. It would be catastrophic, and it would change the world in ways we haven't even imagined yet, and you might never stop looking up.